Look, I know what it looks like, but I was promised it wouldn't be weird. Hello, welcome back to P-Storm. I am Pluvius Lilon, and today we're playing a visual novel that just came out, Sister Other Paranoia. Yeah, it looks, at first glance, like the kind of game that a certain type of person would play, but it is it was written by Nyarla, who also wrote Needy Streamer Overload, so I'm like, it's gotta be worth checking out at least. Like, that. Despite how it looks, I'm sure, there's going to be an interesting story behind it at least. So, and yeah, pardon the silence, it is, the title screen is just like that, and I know the sound works. It's making weird noises when I select things. But okay, let's start a new game. Human relationships are complex and mysterious. Even a guy like me occasionally gets approached by someone like him, just some random boy from my class. But he clearly had something going on to strike up a conversation with a misfit like me, someone much lower in the social pecking order. I can see right through people. It's like their emotions speak directly to me. The guy started up an ordinary conversation, saying that he just wanted to be friends, that we should hang out. Submitting to social mores, only occasionally letting our true feelings slip, is what enables people to coexist in society. Behind his words, I heard a buzz of anxiety. I gathered he'd been ostracized from his friend group for some reason. When shunned by the pack, humans, just like any other animal, take it as a shocking blow. The guy wanted to prove to himself that he still had societal value, but his pride prevented him from finding someone to talk to, so he homed in on me, telling himself he was simply being a good guy, talking to a poor, friendless kid. Sorry, let me make sure my model's not in the way. Okay. Part of him knew all along that he was using me as a distraction. I'm not saying he was a bad guy, really. On the inside, we're all shades of gray. He had both good and bad in him, and when you get right down to it, he seemed to be genuinely trying to make friends. So I invited him over to my place. Quite the honor, I must say. It's rare for me to allow anyone into my room. There in my room, he was just like any other normal teenager. Yo, is that fucking Shuichi Saihara? You're into reading and stuff? Or got a bunch of weird games, huh? You're into reading and stuff? Not really my thing. Who do you think's the hottest girl in this group? We build trust through meaningless conversation. Shallow interaction by a shallow interaction. He dispelled his anxiety, used me to try and reclaim his self-worth. So far, so good. I have a younger sister, Sahana. She's a gifted child, and being my sister, she's very important to me. Like me, she has social anxiety, and she dislikes people. She couldn't cope with elementary school, so she stopped going. I'm not surprised. She was too smart for it anyway. So Sahana came into my room. Even though she was startled to see my visitor, she put up a brave face for my sake and made an effort to join in the conversation. He wasn't a bad guy, but I guess he tended to just say whatever popped into his head. You should go back to school. You can't both be gloomy shut-ins. You'd have so much more fun out there. Sahana faltered between the barrage of platitudes so nauseating it could make you hurl. She burst into tears. She couldn't cope with this disaster that had struck in her own home, which, unlike the classroom, was supposed to be a safe space. The stupid things he said, the tears sliding down Sahana's pale cheeks, it all set my nerves dancing on a knife's edge. Adrenaline surged and my mind focused. Turns out, when I read someone's emotions in such a state, I see even more than usual. Until that moment, I hadn't realized that my sensitivities pushed into abnormal territory, making me an aberration in society where keeping up appearances is everything. What I said to him was simple and obvious. But seeing the flow of his emotions so clearly, I wielded my words like a scalpel, slicing away his self-delusions. You picked me because you wanted to escape from the fact that your friends ostracized you, didn't you? Oh, okay. I guess this is like a tutorial, you know. Yeah, choose your words wisely. Okay, you struggle to hide the fact that all you want is to be popular. Thought you'd schemed your way into the inner circle, found some scraps to claim, but then it all fell apart and now you're screwed, huh? You act tough and fake that smile, but you have no confidence in your own abilities or appearance. I bet your inferiority complex is what caused your friends to ditch you. All of these are sick burns. Yeah, I'm gonna go for this one. No one. No one messes with my emoto. Oh, okay, it's not multiple choice. You gotta pick all of them. His eyes rolled back into his skull. When he tried to form a reply, it came out in a canine growl. Meanwhile, in contrast to the harsh sounds, he trembled like a scared puppy. His face flushed crimson with rage, and, overcome by emotion with no release, he slapped at his thighs, his maelstrom of emotions spilling out in pain groans. I guess that's what happens when the softest parts of a person's mind are sliced open. You're a sneaky, disgusting piece of shit. Then he jumped out of my bedroom window. Jesus! There was a dull, wet thud that I wish Sahana didn't have to hear. He didn't die, but they expect he'll never fully heal from the injuries. The school decided that we must have been horsing around. He got carried away, and he fell out of the window. It never occurred to them that I could have talked him into it. I'd always been a loner, so when my class shunned me after, nothing really changed. Life is suffering anyway. Sahana simply wrapped her arms around my head and stroked my hair. It's okay. You're okay, Oni-chan. I can make people kill themselves if I want. I can commit murder without suspicion. At some point I stopped leaving my room, choosing to stay shut away with Sahana instead. Time flowed on, leaving us behind. Okay, so it might be a little weird, but I feel like it's going to be a subversion of those kinds of media. What? I look away for 2 seconds and I'm playing a completely different game. What is going on? I am a sick man. Who do I think I am? Dostoevsky? Besides, everyone's sick in this day and age. They're all slaves to social media likes, penning their missives in the giant underground of the internet. Not that the real world is any better. I detest both the online and the off. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Hate. Let me tell you how much I've come to hate the world since I began to live. It's mentally draining to be so negative all the time. Time to think about something a little more constructive. Shall we put on a little background music? Music can influence your mood, you know. I do have a sophisticated side as well, a cultured appreciation of the arts. By the way, do you know what a panopticon is? It comes from the Greek word panoptes, which means all-seeing. That probably doesn't help much, huh? Imagine you're building a facility for segregating prisoners from society. You stick the warden's watchtower right in the middle, then arrange the cells around it in a circle. Then ensure the prisoners can't see into the tower. This makes them paranoid that they're being watched 24/7. Now, because the cells are arranged in a circle, the prisoners can all watch each other, you see? Thus, they will all monitor each other, ensuring no one is receiving special treatment or finding some way to get ahead. It's quite the devilish invention. Social media has been called a modern-day panopticon. Everyone's watching to make sure other people aren't getting too full of themselves, and the moment anyone makes a misstep, they're roasted to hell and back. When any nail dares to stick out, the whole world descends to hammer them down. We're in a prison, see? It's grotesque. Both the real world and online are prisons built from human relationships. I'm sensitive to people's emotions. I don't know why, but I can practically read minds. Though it doesn't really work over the internet. I'm just armchair theorizing here. Still, since I base my inferences on the same kind of information I can usually gather in person, I'm pretty confident in my analyses. Let's take a look around this prison. Okay, the expert breaking down online drama, the anime PFP who butts into relationship issues, the corporate drone posting his minor daily grievances, the guy posting selfies who thinks he's got riz, and the artist posing cutesy drawings. I'll go for that one first. They just like me, for real. Oh yeah, she's fishing for guys. Like it could be any more obvious. This cute shit is all facade with nothing substantial behind it. You can tell by how shallow her sense of self is. When you get down to the details, reading minds is pretty unimpressive. It's similar to a social mechanism. You'll see if you look for private or sub accounts. Most of her followers are men. She tries to act like it's a 50-50 split, but you'll see her male follower rate is strangely high, especially given how she presents her main account. Her need to present a superficial sheen of cuteness is a result of the pressure of the panopticon. It's like the final compromise reached to prevent anyone from getting ahead. If people got wind of her thirst for male attention, the haters would come down on her like a pack of wolves. The female prisoners are all surreptitiously peeking into one another's cells, you see. It's an unbreakable bond in a sense. This one's lost the will to even attempt to cry for help. No one's life is dominated by such bland, inoffensive content. If he was truly fulfilled, he wouldn't feel the need to look online, or he'd post more openly about his accomplishments and relationships. But he doesn't even have it in him to reveal the depressing realities of his life. I mean, it's pretty pathetic to see a grown adult constantly complaining, and what's the point in sending out a distress signal when it'll only make people dislike you? Anodyne tweets are his only resistance against this modern condition of slow domestication and the march toward death. The few responses from old online acquaintances are his lifeline. I suppose that, in a sense, he's making the most of what social media has to offer. Such connections are gossamer thin, faint as spider's silk, yet the tangible truth of connecting with someone out there in the wide world, for better or for worse, can't be all bad. You think I'm no different, constantly complaining? Fine by me. It's an author's job to rant and rave at the world. I'm working, labor in this stinking, rotten, ugly world. I'm actually doing a kindness by critiquing the drivel these people spew. They don't give a shit about the actual problem. All these people really want is to either trauma dump or self-abandon, or both at once. They blame the opposite sex, or sometimes supposedly weaker members of their own sex, for their past trauma and their warped sense of self that comes from feeling ignored. Everyone's too afraid to address their own sins, and even if they wanted to, it's already too late, so they try to avoid taking responsibility for their own lives. Wow, you've got that tough road to hoe. Imagine if someone ever told them that's life, full stop. They'd be fucked. They spend their whole lives looking around the prison, taking joy in other people's failures, swooping in to take the head off anyone who lets down their guard, then displaying it among the rest of their trophies. Bunch of revolution addicts. Nothing satiates the masses quite like the moments of the guillotine comes down on the neck of some self-important arsehole. What's better than being happy? Seeing someone you hate being miserable. They call it schadenfreude, and it's sweet as honey to this type. But living on honey alone may be its own kind of suffering. Discard the concept of impropriety, and you too can forge a route to your own happiness. These people are marathon runners. No, triathletes who have set out sprinting across the vast ocean of the internet toward an instinctual source of pleasure, And between their gasps for air, sometimes the truth will slip out. A quiet plea. Save me. Wow, look at all the likes he gets for photos of himself. His hair's dyed a crazy color. You'd think he's trying to draw attention with it, right? Wrong. It's a warning color. It's there to scare people off. I can forgive you for thinking he has the opposite intention. I mean, look at the numbers he's getting. You might consider him an attention seeker, and that's part of it. But it's really about selection. He's sending a message. Hey, I'm someone to keep your distance from. I only want to associate with people who really get me. Someone with more confidence, who's comfortable in any company, wouldn't go out of their way to look so garish. He's just repainting his head in the color of the moment. Look, the poems he posts with his pics are so cringe. There's no art in this lifestyle. He's just desperate to convert his youth into money and cash it before it runs out. That's why he only seeks out similar-minded men who live in the moment and vapid women who flock to his fleeting star. He offers up this period of life where one's youth alone confers value to the devil of lookism. And how will he get out of that Faustian bargain? Every day is riddled with anxiety and the fear of aging, but it's not like he can do anything about it, so he shoves it deep down and carries on. This temporary popularity is his escapism, which makes it all the harder to break free from. These people are everywhere. I know at least one in my social circle who fits this description. They're the proverbial frog in a well. Though, unfortunately, unlike a frog's perspective, the unpleasant gravity of social media is vast indeed. I wonder, does the self-important frog not even attempt to make a jump for the outer world because it's happy reigning over its vast little kingdom in the well? It's more efficient to survive on slimy bugs at the bottom of a deep, dark well than to suffer under the law of the jungle in the unpredictable, unknown world outside. If we're talking meaning, there is none. Like the nighttime croaking of the frogs, they speak on things they know nothing about. Ribbit, ribbit. They're loud enough that you can't quite ignore them, but they have little other effect, either positive or negative. Though perhaps they call their friends to them. Ribbit, ribbit. Usually it's the male frogs that are the accomplished singers, and the females captivated by the sound are drawn to them. But as for the human frog's song, well, you've heard them. Still, keep denying the meaningless, and eventually everything becomes meaningful. I mean, even the frog in the well can provide some sort of distraction. Wink. It's not for me, but I guess some people live like that. This is how I live, spouting these prejudices, cursing the world alone, day after day. Fancying myself a modern-day Dostoevsky, I moved on with the times and wrote a light novel. I did work hard on it to tell a meaningful existentialist story through the heroine's character arcs. Do you know what existentialism is? It's a major theme in Russian literature. Here's my own personal interpretation of it. God is the supreme being we should all believe in, but I'm a human being. I too have an ego. I think that's basically what Dostoevsky was saying. I'm a literature major, after all. Not that I go to class anymore. I mean, I can't. I became a commercial light novel author, earning my own living from writing at the tender age of 19. Impressive, no? Though I've only published one book so far. My book is called The Emotional Panopticon, which I think is a pretty sick title. Go ahead and pick it up if you come across it in the bookstore. It won a prize and everything, but they didn't print many first editions, so a physical copy is a rare find. The other members of my literature club acted as though a hero had emerged from our ranks. The reality is that my book was shoved on a shelf to hype it up, but sales are non-existent. It's all about what I do next. Still, I claim my seat at the table, and that's gotta make those still standing green with envy. There are even a few dickheads in the club who talk shit about me, not that I care. The online reaction isn't polarized. It's either self-appointed critics who get off on trashing the newcomers, or pretentious show-offs who heap praise on any work that shows the slightest ambition. Neither can be trusted. A few readers, though, went so far as to write the editor with their thoughts. To tell the truth, these are the people for whom I feel the need to write the sequel. Light novels live and die on their series potential, and you're basically shit out of luck with an anime adaptation. But the thing is, I've developed writer's block. The envy of my fellow literature club members is too much. It's made me disgusted with people, and since I'm officially an author now, I've got all kinds of people kissing my ass online. People care way too much about status, while faith in the literary gods wears thin. Which brings me to existentialism. As much as I want to make my offering to the gods of the arts, I'm only human, and sometimes humans aren't feeling it. I'm sure Dostoevsky and Kierkegaard felt the same way, too. The Renaissance induces a shift of perspective from God at the center to man. Viva la Renaissance! I want to visit Russia. I feel like it'd help me regain my faith in the arts. I'd love to see the snow. This painting is incredible, right? There's something about Russian women. Their eyes are cold, yet there's a warmth to them at the same time. Portrait of an Unknown Woman. I prefer the alternate title, though. Portrait of an Unforgettable Woman. People call it the Russian Mona Lisa. I'd love to visit the gallery one day to see it in the flesh. It's fucked up that no one can visit the Hermitage Museum because of this war shit. Yeah, I saw this painting, and, like, when it showed this painting, I was like, that is very Mona Lisa-esque. Guess that's humanity's loss. Though I suppose that's not where the Portrait of an Unforgettable Woman is, anyway. Details, details. Anyway, it breaks my heart that art and culture are being destroyed by stupid egotistical shit like wars and the petty relations of humans in their little cliques and on social media. I'm not just venting my frustrations at you because I'm not making any progress with Volume 2. That's not it, I swear. Don't judge me by the blank page. Once I type one word, I'm off. I'll write the whole thing in one go. To me, there's no difference between one word and 100,000. It's so loud. Seriously, the whole world is filled with noise. The moment I step outside, all these strangers' feelings wash over me. It's so fucking loud. Everyone's always thinking about such dumb shit. I can see the bullshit and I hate it. That's why I have to stay secluded in my room. Woe is me. It'd be so much easier to cope if people thought about intellectual things, but no. Their brains are just filled with crap. Short-form videos and Netflix, dating apps, and X-rated ASMR. Too real for you? How about you go take a look around at God's green earth? You're so fixated on that little screen in front of you that you've lost touch with the sublimity of the natural world. Is that too big a word for you? Let me break it down. I'm talking about touching grass. Yeah, this wet-behind-the-ears light novel author is telling you that your life is devoid of poetic beauty and natural vistas. Ironic, huh? Oni-chan? You're lonely deep down, aren't you? You think less of me for it? No way, I love you. Thanks. But I don't like to see you miserable. That's just how it is for authors. No creativity without pain. No, that's not the reason. You're intoxicated by your own noble suffering. You've made misery your identity to the point that you're lost without it. You know that life is hard, so you intentionally make it harder for yourself because you think that'll let you run away from other bigger problems. Okay, this girl's like 6. She would not fucking say that. I don't know, maybe she would. You're hardly one to talk when you refuse to go to school. An uneducated 6-year-old! It's not that I'm running away from school. I want to be with you, Oni-chan. Always and forever. Really? She's right that I'm running away from something. But aren't we all? People can't deal with reality 24/7. By that virtue, I became a warrior the moment I submitted my light novel. I'm not hiding in the literature club room, joining a wound-licking circle jerk. I'm on the battlefield, armed and ready, preparing for my next skirmish. You're coming up with excuses in your head again, aren't you? Can my sister read minds too? You blame yourself and you blame other people, and then your mind goes off chasing excuses. But truly weak people don't look for excuses. Somewhere deep down, you're trying your best to have compassion for yourself and other people. That's what gets you stuck thinking in circles and brings you down. It'd do wonders for that depressed self-consciousness of yours if you just let it all go. That's why I'm here for you. I'll always be right here. Thanks, but I'm afraid you'll have to step out every once in a while so I can crack open a porn site. I'll be right here. Were you listening to me? The only way to escape this mutual mass surveillance is through embracing tribalism. I'm talking about primitive relations, like blood ties. Being siblings isn't the only form of human connection. There are all kinds of ways to connect with people, like friendships and... Wait, is that the little sister talking, or is that me? Being siblings isn't the only form of human connection. There are all kinds of ways to connect with people, like friendships and romance and stuff. Maybe somewhere out there, but not for me. You say that most everyone is a frog in a well, but you're an author in your room. I'm not just holed up in here pretending to be an author. I've actually published something. I get royalties, enough to live on even. Then it doesn't matter that you're not writing. You can be happy if that's what you want. My only joy is in sublimating misery. Pat her head. Okay. Thanks, Sahana. You're welcome, Oni-chan. Till death do us part. Then how about we die right now? No, not yet. I still have a lot left to write. Okay. Good night, Oni-chan. Night, Sahana. I hope you have sweet dreams. I already am. Okay, I swear I was told it wasn't going to be weird. Ever since I was a child, I've always been one step removed from the rest of the world. I couldn't stand its rotten stench. I unconsciously trained myself to take a bird's-eye view of the universe, as though I wasn't part of it. And how did I see my parents? A pig and a kappa. 2 bundles of vanity wrapped up in the stereotypical trappings of middle age. My father, a pudgy, white-collar worker who throws his weight around to hide the fact that he has nothing going for him besides his position at the company. My mother, a nympho who drains her husband's meager earnings, still desperately seeking flattery from men despite being old and washed up. Even as they rip each other to shreds day in and day out, they stay together for the sake of appearances, leaving my sister and I caught in the middle of their disputes. Well, to be clear, they don't try to drag us into their shit. They're just constantly at one another's throats. Still, neither ever found the courage to take the kids and leave. The endless, repetitive routine of it bores me. I've been wondering why they're even alive. What are they living for? For Dad, the list seems to be working. The list seems to be working, drinking, and betting on the ponies. Mom hoards trinkets and sleeps around. But a designer bag or a winning ticket isn't going to fill the emptiness inside. That's a process. Something you work at your whole life, not something you just achieve one day. Fortunately, they're the kind of people who want to save face in front of the kids, and it only creeps them out when I say such things to them. So pathetic. I think that life is about finding meaning. I mean, anyone can simply exist. That's not what I'm talking about. There's no inherent meaning there. Being here on Earth just means your parents followed their base biological instinct, the urge to reproduce, God's commandment, be fruitful and multiply. I highly doubt God imbues each sexual encounter with divine meaning. Being born is a coincidence. Some people attempt to find meaning in their existence, however, and those are the ones, like me, who end up with a pseudo-intellectual bent and a career to match. The people who go around saying they want to be a writer while never doing anything to make it a reality aren't actually interested in finding their purpose. Those people are content with their lives, such as they are. They get used to the daily grind at a job they told themselves was only going to be a stopgap and figure, hey, they're making a living, and it's not so bad after all, following the same old routine of interacting with coworkers and killing time online after work. If you're truly hungry for meaning and purpose, you can seize them for yourself. Dreams do come true. I'd be lynched if I said that at my club, though. I'm a member of my not overly impressive university's literature club. I figured it was a place where things could be a little quieter for me. Let's take a peek into the minds of the wannabes in the club room. I've spent so much time thinking about people's reasons for living that I can pretty much read the mind of anyone I've had a few interactions with. In fact, I can practically hear their inner monologues as though spoken aloud. Let's go right to left. Or, okay. Okay, they're alphabetized. Yeah, we'll start with member A. A window shopper, plain and simple. He has no intention of becoming a writer, but he likes to think he's smarter than his peers who spend their time gaming or reading manga. He's got to maintain that self-image. So he shows up at the club room, and very occasionally he writes some sort of critique to stroke his own ego. It's not even the level of a high school book report, and even so, he mostly just copies from essays he finds online. He hasn't been reading as much recently, instead spending more time on mobile gaming and webcomics. He kind of wants to become one of those insufferable film guys, but his problem is that he immediately gets distracted by his phone whenever he starts watching a movie at home, so he doesn't really absorb the content. His type is pretty good at navigating life, and he might even land a job at a small publisher before graduating. There, he'll tell the young authors he runs into, "I just couldn't hack it as a writer," like he's passing on his dreams to the next generation, when in reality he's just passing the buck. A girl who loves literature, but loves being a literature girly even more. In high school, she was one of those forgettable girls with few prospects, but on entering college, she found her niche as a reader and suddenly shot up in popularity. If you really get into it with her over whatever the club is reading this week, you'll be seen as the popular guy, so the guys spend their dull days trying to impress her, with more than a few falling for her along the way. But she's still anxious. She knows that her value is extremely localized. She's got to seize the next opportunity as soon as it presents itself, and she's here with the aim of using her current popularity as a springboard to find a man and lock down her life. Still, she's not a bad person. This is just what people do. She has an aversion to men, like a germaphobe to germs. Thus, she reads books that have gender as a central theme. She takes pleasure in the consistency and routine of club meetings, sharing her insights into these works, as well as her own thoughts on her pet theme. Her identity now revolves around delivering her insights on how a work depicts women, whether they want to hear it or not. She loathes toxic masculinity and is highly critical of any perceived vulgar talk from club members or people online. People neither respect nor fear her, though. They've simply started avoiding her because she's a pain in the ass. Once someone responded that gender wasn't the only theme of a particular work, and she angrily shot back in that they clearly hadn't understood the author's intent. Being overly conscious of the differences between men and women only narrows one's worldview. Follower count is just a number, but she feels beholden to the people whose attention she's garnered with her provocative rhetoric. Her success is modest, but it is success nonetheless. At the root of it all is a lack of self-esteem as a woman who doesn't get much attention with the opposite sex, and she's terrified that people will see through to that truth. The men and women in the club exist far more harmoniously than she'd have you believe. If in her shouted rants about liberation and independence, she reveals a heart bound by invisible chains. He likes literature, writing, criticism, and hanging out with the group, and he participates in it all up to a point, but his heart isn't in it. His critiques are fine. Literature grads aren't exactly in high demand, but I expect he has a decent chance of finding employment. He's pretty much got things figured out, but he's not driven, and he has a complex about that. Sure, he wants to be a writer, but he doesn't have the passion to devote himself entirely to the craft. Given the chance, he'd much rather go out with his friends. When we're making a zine, he might pull an all-nighter for it. He skates by on his level of commitment. The other club members generally like his writing, but we all, including him, know he's not good enough to be published. Vaguely, he had hoped that even so, maybe he could become a writer, and with his natural ability to get by, he might unexpectedly slip through that gate. But little by little, precisely because he is perceptive, he realizes that the drive possessed by real ones is nothing like this. And so, despite thinking of himself as the kind of guy who can do anything he puts his mind to, he's given up on the idea, knowing that he'll never be able to dedicate himself to something he'll never be able to dedicate himself to something to the exclusion of all else. He'll graduate with a mixed bag of happiness and unhappiness, topped with a heaping helping of existential dread about a life filled with mediocre accomplishments and the rare fluke of a solid showing, yet with no clear game plan. I suppose that's about all you can expect from the average university student anyway. Yes, I'm qualified to judge. Don't forget that I made it past the gatekeepers. I'm a published author. Last but not least, there's the guy in the back of the room cultivating a gloomy aura. The one with the unsettling look in his eyes. He's a real character, but the truth is, he's just your average wannabe. Another young guy dreaming of being an author and a critic. Whenever I'm successful, he directs his oppressive envy at me like a laser. And it burns. His name is Hiyakawa, written with the characters for Cold River. The guy's icy as his namesake. People used to ironically call him Sensei because he pompously criticizes others despite not having achieved anything himself. But that all ended when my book was published. Now I'm Sensei. It's hard to tell whether he's glad the nickname is gone or whether he just liked having his superiority acknowledged even in jest. He burns with envy toward anyone he thinks has gotten ahead of him in life. Every day he compliments me on my work. It's so obnoxious. I want to quit the club, but now that I'm an author, it feels awkward. This is the only reason I'm still here. By the way, I do have a friend I sometimes hang out with on the weekends, but things are awkward with him now, too. He's the most normal normie who ever normed. We were never joined at the hip or anything, but I've known him since elementary school. Sometimes we don't hang out for a few years, but we always seem to come back together. You know the kind of relationship, right? He seems to be working hard to line up a job after graduation. That's the kind of thing that makes him a normie, you see. A normal person walks around wearing clothes because normal people don't get naked in public. We plan to meet up soon to celebrate my book's publication. Well, it won't be much of a celebration. We're just gonna hang out in town and he'll probably treat me to dinner. It'll be pure normalcy. I mean that in a good way. I'm grateful for it. But as someone who can read minds, I'm also a bit nervous for it. Beneath his outward celebration of my success, frustration buzzes. He's desperately trying to suppress the fear of being surpassed by his friends. He doesn't know how to feel about the fact that I'm here getting money and recognition while he's dealing with the stress of job hunting. But what can you do? It's yet another interpersonal struggle, albeit of a different kind from what I have with Hiyakawa. There are some things that would make people like this envious. That's what makes it so difficult. Beyond a deep shadow lies a bright light, and vice versa. Readers reply to my posts with positive messages of encouragement. Of course, people discuss my work on review sites and message boards, but people who contact me directly are usually fans with an interest in rising authors. Though I suppose the fact that I don't have enough exposure to have haters yet probably isn't a good thing. I hope the next volume sells enough for me to get publicity I hope the next volume sells enough for me to get publicly slammed. Anyway, I do get plenty of DMs. From girls too, you know. You know, women, females. People who secretly send me direct messages in the hopes of using me somehow for their own advantage, mostly women. This in turn fuels the jealousy of their peers who have nothing special going for them. If I show any interest in return, I'll be lambasted as only being in it for the women. But the true greats turned their messy romantic troubles into literature, right? Osamu Dazai and Sakaguchi Ango were womanizers. Not that they would listen to reason. I've got game too, though. I got a DM from a girl who wants to meet up. Going by her account, she seems to be a fairly cute university student and model who has aspirations of becoming a VTuber. She looks average enough to me, but her selfies get plenty of likes and she has about 3,000 followers. She's into alternative stuff, and she messaged me because she emotionally connected with my work. Well, I'll be damned. It could be interesting to take a peek inside her head and use it as inspiration for my work. I haven't responded yet. Finally, to play the part of the broke student, I have a part-time job working the night shift at a convenience store. That's all I felt up to. The store is surprisingly quiet at night, though it's a comparatively good time of day. The work itself is strenuous. Every day I find myself wanting to punch the manager in the face. The only reason convenience store managers across the nation are still alive is because night shift pay is slightly higher. That's why I haven't killed him. Let's take a peek inside the customers, shall we? I like observing them from behind the register. There can be something almost childishly innocent about the patrons who come here at night. Oh, like I mentioned before, my ability isn't something so convenient as telepathy. It's more like a form of synesthesia, and I do need a certain amount of information for it to work. While I can hazard a decent guess from observing their actions and body language, it's only after a few conversations that I start to see deeper. That's why I don't like to get close to people. I can't help it, though. I'm already in their minds. I bet he's a runaway. Curfew ends at 4 a.m., so until then he evades the eyes of the law by drifting around the stores that are open into the early hours. He could pass for 18, but it's always better to err on the side of caution. Not that I have any intention of turning him in. I bear him no ill will. It's not like he's shoplifting or anything. He's a dumbass dropout who often works the same shift as me, and I don't want this kid to head toward the same future. I'm happy to let him browse for a while. It'll liven things up a bit. She's clearly a hostess. I mean, you can tell from how she's dressed. Maybe she doesn't work at a hostess bar specifically, but she definitely works the red light district. There's a delicate soul wrapped in those flashy clothes. I guess she's here for condoms or cigarettes. She flits in on her break and then disappears again into the neon world. There you go. She's picked up a pack of condoms. Well, at least she's not one of those chicks who's obsessed with hosts. How do I know that? Hosts always have condoms on them. Be look out for number 1. This is all just speculation, of course. A man has to entertain himself when he works the night shift. Yeah, I was gonna say, the store... this store is surprisingly, like... It's surprisingly not hectic for a night shift. I mean, I've never worked at a convenience store, but I worked the night shift in fast food, and it was hell. It was awful. I would not wish it on anyone. If you are going for a fast food job, please get the day shift if you can. Night shift is... You will walk out of it a different person, and not in a good way. This old guy's a regular. He's always pissed off about something. If the cashier is too slow bagging his purchases, he'll curse them out. Despite that, he buys a ton of candy. Both his work life and his home life are falling apart. After his night shift ends, he fills his basket with carbs so he can eat his stress away. His body is expanded with his sedentary lifestyle, and he's transforming into a lump of flesh that disgusts his coworkers and family. My dad's the same. Gluttony is the most convenient sin. Even a complete idiot can stuff themselves. And that's what idiots do. It's a lack of self-control. To be human is to restrain one's desires. That's rationality. We aren't beasts to be controlled by our instincts. The streets are so deserted this late at night that I feel a certain closeness with the strangers glimpsed from the corner of my eye. You know how it is. But even as I hold myself apart, I'm like these people, like that dropout coworker I mentioned before. One's surroundings reflect one's own nature. I too am a character in this setting. I'll be making my exit shortly though, now that I have my prize money and royalties. Sadly, I shall be tendering my resignation, leaving this liminal space where at an hourly rate of 1,450 yen, a teenager can work for a 10-hour shift and earn more money than they ever imagined. This place is like life's waiting room, but it's time to leave. I'm determined to move forward to my future. Serves you all right. And that's how I spend my days. I hate humanity, and I hate this world. Especially since my sickly little sister was born. She went through a lot before she was stabilized, and now we siblings are in a world of our own. Sahana was born 1,000 times smarter than the average person. She's a genius. She was far too advanced for her elementary school, so she stopped going. Since my elementary school days, I've always thought deeply on questions like, why are people so cruel, and what determines what's right or wrong? The more I thought, the more distant I grew from other people, until I started to see inside their heads. Once my mother asked me, why don't you like school? When I asked her if the other moms thought less of her because her kid was a loner, she screwed up her face in disgust and called me a little demon. But I'd asked the question in good faith. I'd heard the concern buzzing behind her words, and I'd simply wanted to help. You're still awake, Oni-chan? At the sound of my sister's voice, I finally became aware of the time. Nighttime if you're sleeping, you know? It's the middle of the night, the witching hour, when the whole world slumbers, except for me. I feel bad for keeping Sahana up too, but I don't think she minds. Since neither of us goes to school, the time kept by those in the outside world doesn't really apply to us. There's no point in forcing ourselves to adhere to the logic of a world of which we are not a part. Sahana only mentioned the time as a conversation starter. She wants me to pay attention to her. Twisted as we may be, she still wants us to play at being a happy family. Plus, kids find it fun to be up late while everyone else their age is tucked in bed getting a good night's sleep before school the next day. They follow their parents' and teachers' orders, going to school even though they'd rather not, already being conditioned into wage slavery as they learn to wake with the dawn. It's idiotic. They have no idea how much quieter and more enjoyable the world is at night. I'm so proud of my sister when I compare her to those drones. She'll happily point out her brother's unhealthy habits while having no intention of going to school herself. Oni-chan, you're mocking people in your head again, aren't you? No, I'm not. Actually, I was thinking of how proud I am of you. It's okay. You justify yourself by looking down on people who live normal lives. No, I don't. And even if I do think along those lines, I'm not looking down on people. I'm just stating facts. You'd be lost without me. That goes both ways. We're two shut-ins together. If one of us left, the whole world is gone. You can't really say you're living if there's no one else around. But we say we're alive we can say we're alive in a world with only each other? I don't know. But we're living more than we would if we were completely alone, I think. Though only barely. But I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that, too. I'll always be here. My sister is always cynical, yet also always earnest. She's such a weird girl, but that's fine. If she were normal, she'd probably hate her older brother. Plus, she'd be up in the daytime and going to school. She'd set some awful alarm and it'd wake me up too, but she'd be the good girl doing what she was supposed to. But because she'd be the good girl always doing what she was supposed to, my complaints would be irrelevant. That's how neurotypicals exclude people like us before they even notice us. Those cruel people. We're just committing slow suicide together, aren't we, Oni-chan? Dukkha. The truth at the foundation of the Buddha's teachings. It means that life is suffering. I'm a fan of Buddhism. I see it as a religion of resignation. It's like, this is the way the world is. Get used to it. Things are never going to go how you want them to. Suffering is the core of life. Any moment without pain is a bonus. You'll live with the assumption that nothing will go as planned, finding happiness in the rare occasion when it does. But I hate the kind of people who spout nonsense about living without expecting anything from other people. They're liars. Can see it in the color of their emotions. They just want to show off, acting like they know all about suffering and truth. But deep in their eyes, you can see it. They still believe in other people. I mean, if your average person could achieve enlightenment that easily, there'd be no need for Buddhism, would there? So long as you're alive, you'll always be suffering. That's just the way it is. I read a book by a famous psychiatrist. After delving into so many minds, this doctor apparently concluded that moments of peace or joy were rare and fleeting among the harsh realities of life. Really gives you hope, right? Everyone is suffering. Now, I'd really rather not, but it's time I made some human connections in this shitty world. Living is inextricably tied to relationships, so I'm going to power forward while I have even a little motivation. As much as it pains me, experience is necessary sustenance for creative work. To live is to suffer. Now, where shall we go? Okay, I think this is a good place to stop for now. Oh. Is there no pause menu? I'm pressing escape and nothing's happening. I guess I'll start bat. Am I expected to read this whole thing in one go? Critics are men who watch a battle from a high place, then come down and shoot the survivors. Ernest Hemingway. Okay, there's got to be a way to... Oh, okay. Okay, I read the discussion boards a little bit. You go to... You bring up the menu by hovering your cursor at the top of the screen. That's a little unusual. But okay. Yeah, I can fuck with this, I think. But if you enjoyed this video, then no further actions required on your part. And we will see you next episode.